Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting on November 18th, 2024. Individuals interested in participating in this evening's meeting were eligible to register online using the delegation registration form at www.kitchener.ca/delegation or via email at delegation@kitchener.ca. Any written comments received prior to the commencement of this evening's meeting were circulated to Council and will form part of the public record. The meeting live stream and any archived videos are available at www.kitchener.ca. As we gather this evening, we gather on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We recognize our responsibility to serve as stewards for the land and honor the original caretakers who came before us. Our community is enriched by the enduring knowledge and deep-rooted traditions of the diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in Kitchener today. Before we move on to the singing of our national anthem, I would like to take a moment to reflect on the passing of the Honourable Murray Sinclair. The Honourable Murray Sinclair was a prominent Indigenous leader, lawyer, and former senator who passed away on November 4th, 2024 at the age of 73. Senator Sinclair dedicated his life to public service with extraordinary contributions to Indigenous rights, reconciliation, and justice in Canada. A member of the Peguis First Nation in Manitoba, he became Manitoba's first and Canada's second Indigenous judge at the age of 37. His expertise bridged Canadian legal systems and traditional teachings, earning respect in both Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. Senator Sinclair was widely celebrated for his groundbreaking work as chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, or the TRC, which documented the harrowing legacy of residential schools and issued 94 calls to action for reconciliation. His leadership on the TRC and advocacy for Indigenous rights transformed Canada's understanding of its colonial history and forged its commitment to reconciliation. Sinclair's approach was characterized by deep listening, fairness, and kindness, values that resonated with survivors, students, and peers. He often reminded Canadians that education got us into this mess, and education will get us out. A vision that underscores the importance of learning and accountability in achieving reconciliation. His passing is a profound loss, not just to his family, but to our country, but his legacy inspires continued efforts to bridge divides and honor Indigenous cultures and histories. Let us continue to reflect on his life in the days and weeks ahead as one of deep caring for others and as an inspiration for all of us to pursue equity and unity. I'd now like to invite everyone to stand as they're able for the singing of our national anthem. Thank you very much. on motion by Councillor Stretch, the minutes of the regular meeting held October 21st, 2024, and the special meetings held October 21st and October 28th, as mailed to the mayor and councillors, be accepted. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Stretch.
Yes, item 6.3, around the 60 Tressler Road. I have family who has property neighboring that property.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other declarations? There being none, we'll note that at the time. Moving on then to communications referred to file, please note the 2 flag requests that have been processed, both for the Albanian and the Romanian communities in November and December respectively. We'll now move into presentations, and we have one presentation this evening, and it's the folks from REAP Green Solutions with their annual impact report. And I'd like to invite Patrick Gilbride and Rebecca Robinson forward, who have 10 minutes to make a presentation. Welcome to both of you.
Good evening, Mayor Verbenovich, councillors, and staff. We're pleased to be here this evening to share with you our most recent impact report and some of the stories that your funding has helped Kitchener residents to achieve with our support. First of all, we'd like to acknowledge Mary Jane Patterson, who is Executive Director and retired last year after 22 years of service, as well as our co-founder, Paul Parker, who also retired Professor Emeritus at University of Waterloo. But as you can see, they've left a legacy of a really passionate team of staff and volunteers. So back in 2020, we set a target to empower 10,000 meaningful actions by the year 2030. This report marks our 3rd year of tracking those actions, and as you can see, people in the community are hungry for climate change solutions. 2,000 of these actions have happened over the past year, which marks an acceleration of interest in everything from installing heat pumps to flood-proofing entire neighborhoods. With the wind down of the Greener Homes incentives from the federal government, we are in jeopardy of losing this important momentum. So tonight I'd like to turn things over to my colleague Rebecca, who will highlight just a few of the stories of the people impacted by our work.
Can you talk into that?
Sure.
Thanks. REAP's Energy Advisor highlighted several opportunities to further improve Korean's 70-year-old home's energy efficiency. She invested in a heat pump, added installation strategically in key areas, and draft-proofed parts of her home. As a result, she had a 32% reduction in energy costs. We visited 662 homes like Koreans last year. Of those homes, Kitchener residents installed over 200 upgrades that will result in $87,000 in energy savings per year. Thank you. At English Conversation Circles, we met newcomers to talk about simple ways to reduce their energy consumption. We were also pleased to partner with the region of Waterloo on a recent webinar to educate newcomers and the general public about our drinking water supply, for which we had over 300 registrants. The wells where we draw our drinking water are increasingly under threat from salt that is used in the wintertime. Through a program run by the region of Waterloo, we've helped educate both residential and business owners about ways to reduce their salt use for winter maintenance. In the past year, property owners, with our help, have installed 724 healthy yard features. From rain gardens to permeable paving and native tree plantings, people contributed to reducing stormwater runoff and expanding our urban tree canopy. And in REAP's tradition of using an evidence-informed approach to our programs, we're using data to map where climate vulnerability is highest in our community. Our new community canopy program, which we piloted in Laurentian Hills this year, aims to increase tree canopy in equity-deserving areas. And this was the first year of our new tree nursery operation, and it's been a true barn-raising effort. Volunteers like Marie have helped collect local seeds and helped to plant them this spring. By using locally collected seed exclusively, we can be assured that the trees we grow will be naturally adapted to our climate. Some of these trees have been used in naturalization plantings this fall by the city's forestry team.
Thank you, Becca. We'd also like to highlight our tree trust program, which where we care for legacy trees throughout the community. It's not just about planting new trees, but it's preserving the existing tree canopy. And what we do is we take individual donations from the community to look after trees at churches, schools, and long-term care homes. But really, it's about educating people that they have to look after the trees that are, under their purview in their yards, et cetera, et cetera. We co-lead climate action, Waterloo Region, with Sustainable Waterloo Region, in partnership with all of our area municipalities, including the City of Kitchener. This year, we came to Council in the summer to highlight our 2022 inventory report, which demonstrated the urgency for us to reduce our emissions from travel and the buildings where we live and work. Our Zero Waste Challenge is a fun initiative that anybody can participate in. It wrapped up over the month of October, and we would like to thank everybody who did participate, including the 15 pets who participated, which was a high water mark for that category. In terms of our financials, we saw significant growth in the fee-for-service revenue last year as people scheduled home energy evaluations. There was a real rush to do so while the Greener Homes incentives were still available through the federal government. And those earnings will help provide to us some financial stability over this coming year because those energy evaluations have abated with those incentives no longer available. Finally, we'd like to say thank you. We couldn't do it without you. We're grateful for your support in all of its many forms. Through providing subsidies through Kitchener Utilities to our energy evaluations, but also, most importantly, as one of our core funders. Core funding is the constant that helps our organization weather shocks like the end to the Greener Homes program. We'd also like to finish by saying thank you to the municipal staff that we get to work with on a regular basis, in particular, Anna Marie Cipriani, Michelle Campus, Nick Golan, Samantha Brickman, Sarah Anderson, Josh Shea, Heine Kovacs, and Rachel Voris, to name just a few. We can yield back our time, but we're happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you very much to both of you, Patrick and Rebecca, for coming in, for all of the great work that REAP has been doing for many years, and also Patrick for guiding the organization in the transition from your predecessor to continuing the work that has been going on for many years and steering it into new and exciting directions as well. We do have some questions for you or comments, and I'll go to Councillor Johnson first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Patrick and Rebecca, for coming in. It's so great to see you again. I do look forward to the presentation from REAP every year. I will say that in Ward 8, you do so many great things around Lakeside Park with the salt reduction campaigns for the lake in Lakeside Park, and the trees that you've planted, and also all the rain gardens that you've helped people put in. So that's incredible. I did want to ask you about your legacy trees and your tree trust project. I'm not sure if you know, but the City of Kitchener also has a tree recognition program here for trees that are special to people in different areas. Particularly, there's a lot in Forest Hill that are very old and are very large as well. I don't know, have you ever connected with us about that? Maybe that's something that we could be looking at working together on.
Do you want to answer that?
Sure, we haven't connected on that in my experience, unless you have a different answer, but it sounds like a great opportunity. We just wrapped up our Tree of the Year campaign. We'll do that every year or for the next few years going forward, where residents can nominate a tree, and one of the prizes is financial support to care for their trees, so that could be a good
Oh my
connection
goodness.
point.
Well, maybe we should talk.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I also wanted to say as well, I had the home evaluation done with REAP probably about 10 years ago. It was amazing. Really gave me lots of tips to be able to better protect my house from, I'm going to say, the elements and better weatherproofing, I'd say. And it was incredible. It's too bad that that's gone away. And however, we can be helping maybe with some advocacy on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, hi, and thank you for coming in. I too have used your services over the years, most recently to get suggestions on how to do a rain garden.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you for what you do. But my question has to do with the use of salt. And how can we as a city do our part to reduce the amount of salt we use?
Do you want me to take that, or you want to go?
Sure.
You go.
Well, certainly I know they've done some evaluation studies, and they found that one of the major contributors is in parking lots. So there's certainly road salt applied to roads. The city has been relatively innovative in trying to come up with new ways. It's still going to be an issue over time. We know our drinking wells are becoming more and more salinated over time, and that's only going to continue. But certainly the lowest hanging fruit is in parking lots and properties where the city owns. I presume, I don't know for certain, but the contractors who do that work are Smart About Salt certified. And in particular, it's the work that we do with the region is really targeted at where it's most acute, where, the water for those wells is either most in peril or because of the amount of impermeable surfaces. But that's a key area, is just making sure that salt is used efficiently. Areas that aren't used in the winter can be closed off so they don't have to be salted. That's another key area. But it really is property specific, so there is opportunity to kind of look at it at the kind of property level.
And do you measure the salt content in water at all, or that's beyond your?
Well, we don't,
work that you
and we actually are partnered with the Region of Waterloo Source Water Protection Team, who does this work, and we're really just assisting them in this work and developing these source water protection plans that are required as part of the Clean Water Act.
Right, okay, thank you, keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Councillor Deneau.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you again for coming in. I echo Councillor Johnson's statement or comments that I look forward to this report every year, and I also have used REAP in both of my houses for windows and doors, and so it was such a valuable program, and the incentives offered by the federal government at that point in time were just incredible, and so I hope going forward some kind of a program comes back to assist us with climate change and making people more energy efficient in their houses. My question for you is, do you know, are there any new strategies or products that are coming down the pipeline, pardon my pun, that can assist with local residents in more efficiency in their homes, or garbage disposals? Are there any things, do you guys work with any of the incubator companies around here that create something new, or they're thinking of something new?
So do you mean in terms of the circular economy?
Well, like
stuff, or-
innovative ideas that are coming down the pipeline that are not fully realized yet, but, are on the horizon. Are there any
Yeah.
that you know?
I mean, certainly, as I mentioned, we grew out of the University of Waterloo, and technology is a really important piece of this. And being able to get involved in innovation in the tech sector is also really important. We tend to gravitate towards solutions that aren't proprietary, and in a lot of ways, the work that we do around climate adaptation is really sort of going back to ways we used to do things like harvesting the rain, it's things like that. Certainly, it seems like a new technology, but it's basically what we've been using in our fridges. Like heat pumps are really sort of the vanguard of what we need to do, because we know the reason we set a target for 2030 is we need to get moving on these in our buildings and our homes. And heat pumps are an existing technology that we can really sort of ramp up quickly, so.
Okay. Now, the reason why I asked that question, because there was a reason why I asked that question, is a few of the councillors and I were down in Ottawa at a conference this past summer, and we walked past a booth called the Food Cycler. And it takes a lot of your scraps and it makes it into a little scrap. And so, that was really an interesting booth to talk to these people and to hear the stories of some of the municipalities that they are already in, working with the municipalities. And so, I hope that going near in the future, that's something that either REAP or the city can look at to offering some potential grants, because actually it will save, our wastes a significant amount, this one average house of 4, 1.5 bags per week. After the Food Cycler, they're half a bag a week. And so, there's a significant reduction in waste. And so, that's the kind of innovative technology I was talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Well, we know, like we're going to run out of landfill at some point relatively soon. And we don't really have solutions on the horizon. So like I said, technology is a really important piece of that, yeah.
Perfect. Again, thank you for all you guys do.
Thank you, Councillor Deneau, and we've lost our last questioner. So I think that's all that we have. Thank you very much to both of you again for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
Okay. We will now move into delegations, and I'm seeing that my delegation clause is missing. So I will just remind delegations that you have 5 minutes to make your presentations. I also want to remind everyone, and I'm paraphrasing here, that delegations must be done in a respectful manner. If there are any things that are said that are, personally attacking members of council or staff, then your delegation will have to, you'll be cautioned, and if it continues, your delegation will come to an end. So with that, I will go to our first delegation, and it is Mr. Roman Kurzydlowski for item 6.1, the dog designation, Kurzydlowski and Kurzydlowska. Yes, and I will acknowledge, also recognize that there is a interpreter here with the delegation. So thank you for coming in this evening, and we'll go ahead. But obviously we'll have to take some time, I think, for you to be able to interpret what they're saying.
I'll do my best to make sure they understand what the regulation is and what's required.
Okay. So welcome, Mr. Kurzydlowski. Did you want to say anything?
I didn't know. Good evening, first of all. I didn't know that there was about a formula. I have just 5 minutes to explain that. I have never been informed that the formula of explanation. So I am totally surprised because the whole case, I'm accused, actually my dog is accused, is based just on one witness. And then the very next day after this alleged incident, I was allegedly involved, which I wasn't. Police came to my house asking me if I walked the dog the day before. And I said, what brings you here? We have someone who tipped us, like a witness. But if they have a certain witness, 100%, they wouldn't come over and ask me, because at this time, I wasn't present at the scene. I was driving in my wife's car from the place I live to the place she lives, because we live under two different addresses. And so that's impossible. And on these papers, the witness states says he located me, which is physically impossible, for many reasons. Even if many times I have a problem, I have a transplant here, my legs, and I walk very slowly. And because of that, I make stops every 10, 20 meters to make sure no bikers on the sidewalk, no this electric scooter, no kids around, because you never know. Sometimes kids run into, and then there's still animal, their action might be unpredictable. So that's the first reason I could never be followed by someone. And the second reason is I wasn't there, Even police wasn't sure about that, because if they were sure, they wouldn't ask me. They wouldn't ask me, sir, did you walk the dog yesterday? I said, no. So this is now, there's a tragic situation. There is no police report about this dog of being aggressive or dangerous in the past. We've got him for 9 or 10 years, since he was like 4 weeks old. Nothing, In a few occasions, he was attacked by the other dog when I was walking years ago. Twice dog jumped over the fence and attacked him. And what he does, he's backing out. Dangerous dog would never, or aggressive dog would never do it, He would have respond, viciously, because he's dangerous, right? So the whole case is based on one witness, And when I had a writing from the Human Society, they said, okay, we have a videotape, everything. Oh, that's what appeared. They didn't have anything, I'm on video. And there are a few persons, I live on this address and around for many years, and I see persons very similar to me, 65, 70, walking with the big black dogs, I don't know if police search further for some other person who might be similar to me. I have no idea. But I didn't know if I am unprepared. First of all, I have a problem hearing, and I have a pretty bad heart problem. We informed the committee on October 1st that we have to travel to Europe, and that's the second meeting that I required translator for the reason of my hearing and limited English, considering the law terminology, and I was sure it's going to be postponed, When the first meeting was about to happen, I asked for translator as well, and when we came, there was no translator available, so we didn't understand, what was going on. Then the second meeting was scheduled. We put a letter, we have a stamp here. I said to this girl who got this letter, make sure that all members of the committee are informed that we have to, for very important family matter, leave to Europe. Actually, I didn't go. She goes. She had a stamp in a passport like she came back from Poland yesterday. Today. Actually, today. Yeah, today. And I didn't go because I didn't feel right. I have a mild heart attack a year ago, and I'm prohibited of, flying now. So she go, and I had to take care of the place, So I'm totally unprepared, because otherwise I would have put everything in writing or hire a lawyer, But please revive this again. And the dog is old now, limping. He is no danger to anyone. We keep him in a backyard. Backyards have a very high fence around. I don't go for a walk. Sometimes, occasionally, once a month, maybe to the close cemetery at midnight, I make sure, because he's limping and there is nobody around. Not for the reason he's dangerous, but That's the most my son is on the cemetery because he died a few years ago. Then we go to visit because that was previously his dog, you know. And that's the whole situation, sir, you know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kozlowski. You're a bit over time already, but we'll see if any
Sorry
members
about
of council have questions for you. You're a bit over time already, and we'll see if members of council have any questions for you. Are there
I'm
any?
sorry, I didn't realize that.
No problem, no problem. Thank you for coming in. Are there any questions of the delegation? Okay, there don't appear to be any questions. You can have your seat and council will deliberate on your issue.
Nikt się nie pyta, nie ma pytań. Może pan wziąć papiery.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a recommendation before us. Who's bringing that forward? Councillor Deneau, please go ahead.
I just want to find it. Pardon me? Yeah, sure. That'd be great. Thank you, Mayor.
No problem. The recommendation is that the decision of the Dog Designation Appeal Committee regarding an appeal filed by R. Kurzydlowski and J. Kurzydlowska, wherein the committee substitutes the designation of dangerous dog applied to Ozzie by the Humane Society of Kitchener-Waterloo and Stratford Perth and pursuant to bylaw 2014-142, and hereby designates Ozzie as a prohibited dog, be ratified and confirmed as outlined in Corporate Services Department Report COR 2024-486. And that's moved by Councillor Deneau. Is there a seconder? Moved by Councillor Johnson. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So, Mr. Kurzydlowski and Ms. Kurzydlowska, council has heard your delegation and has read the report, and they have ratified the decision to change the designation of Ozzie from a dangerous dog to a prohibited dog. And so, therefore, now you'll have to follow the rules as they apply to a prohibited dog. Okay, and our staff can, if there's any questions, you can reach out to our staff and they can help explain that to you. Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move on to our next delegation, item 6.2, becoming a bird-friendly city and World Migratory Bird Day. And we have two delegations on this item. The first one is Dr. Jennifer Clary Lemon and Meredith Blunt. Welcome.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I did want to quickly note that staff are hoping to make a small amendment to the recommendation, so I'm just going to share it on the screen if you're okay with that.
Yep, please do go ahead. I was going to save that till the end, but now's as good of a time as any. Okay, so please go ahead. Oh, just hang on. Okay, now you can start.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Clary Lemon, and this is Meredith Blunt, and we are co-chairs of the Kitchener Bird Team, an official subcommittee of Waterloo Region Nature. And we really appreciate, we thank Mayor and Council for hearing this delegation, and we're especially thankful to all of the bird people in the room who've come out this evening in support, and we hope maybe by the end of this presentation that will be everyone in the room. So the staff report to the Planning and Strategic Initiatives Committee details what we've been working towards for nearly a year, which is the certification of the City of Kitchener as a bird-friendly city, inclusive of presentations to the Climate Change and Environment Committee, as well as collaborating with city staff to complete our application. As of November 7th, 2024, we received entry-level certification by Nature Canada to recognize Kitchener as a bird-friendly city. However, part of the certification includes municipal recognition in the form of council resolution to support Kitchener as bird-friendly, and that's why we're here today. So what is a bird-friendly city? This is all review from your packet. But ultimately, Kitchener being a bird-friendly city means that we are a city where key threats to birds are effectively mitigated, where nature is restored so that native bird populations can thrive, where residents are actively engaged in admiring and monitoring local bird populations, organizations are creating events to protect birds like World Migratory Bird Day, that progressive municipal policies are created to protect urban bird populations, and that a bird team has been created to oversee and lead these initiatives.
Thank you. So Kitchener is home to many organizations like REAP, who is here focused on sustainability, green initiatives, including municipal-driven strategies as well. The step to become a bird-friendly city seemed intuitive to Jen and I, which is why we pursued it. At first glance, it's easy to say that Kitchener just maybe has only Canadian geese and little brown birds, but we're actually home to hundreds of diverse bird species that use our city as a migratory throughway and a home, including some very at-risk species that we need to be aware and knowledgeable guardians of. We are thrilled to be counted among the 30 cities now certified as bird-friendly, including Toronto, even though we're better than them. So, with this certification, Kitchener's bird team is committed to developing, leading, and cooperating in the actions required by Nature Canada that will maintain our certification and help Kitchener achieve its own goals in a sustainable and biodiverse city.
So we're here today to ask that Council support the recommendation on page 18 of your agenda packet offered by the staff report to the Planning and Strategic Initiatives Committee that you began the meeting with. One thing that what we will say that will be coming down the pike is one of our first initiatives as a bird-friendly city is a city bird campaign wherein a city elects a bird to represent their city. So this is a quick bird quiz for you, but this is our short list of birds for the city of Kitchener. This was created by Waterloo Region Nature and our bird team. So on the far left we have the chimney swift, and then the second is the killdeer, the dark-eyed junco, and finally the merlin to the right. And the reason that I bring this up is not just for fun, although this is very fun, but it is because it is a requirement that once elected, and this is a citizen election campaign, so this is spread on social media, the link is available, and has been already, we had 12,000 views on Instagram, 300 votes, and will go on for the next month. But it will need formal municipal support once this bird is elected. It has to be the official city bird, so it's not just our designation, but it's really yours as well. So that will be kind of part and parcel of supporting Kitchener as a bird-friendly city. And we'll see the rest of our time. If you have any questions for us, we're happy to answer them. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to both of you for coming in, and I guess I will say, while Twitter and X might not be something to talk about, the fact that we did get a bird-friendly designation is certainly something to tweet about these days. I'll still try to stick to my day job. I know, not that great. But in all seriousness, thank you for all of your work in helping us get here. I guess since we're limited to 4, we also can't pick like the Blue Jay, because then we would like get a ball team with it to cheer on as part of the process as well. But we do have a number of councillors with questions, and I'll go to Councillor Johnson first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sometimes you are hard to follow. I will not be making any bird jokes. Thank you so much for coming in. And Meredith, I know how much you love birds. You've dedicated your last, I don't know, couple of years to drawing a bird a day, and have become quite famous for that, and they're pretty incredible. So it's wonderful to have you both here tonight. This is quite exciting. My question for you you would be around, how are you working with maybe groups like REAP? It was great to have REAP here tonight making their presentation. And our own, urban forestry team. I mean, to have birds, we need habitat for them. They need water sources, food sources. They need places to live. Maybe you can comment a little bit on how that all fits together and what you're doing around that collaboration, and if there's anything we can do to help.
Sure. Part of the certification process was that very large application packet that you might have skimmed through. And we're very appreciative of city staff who helped us complete that document. So giving us places to look in all of our city documents and to examine the urban forest strategy, for example. And we also have been kind of pulling from local conservation organizations like REAP to help substantiate our commitments to, for example, reducing waste, in particular plastic pollution. So that's another point for certification. So all of these kind of currently what is done is in that certification application. And so it just really remains the issue of, can we renew in 2 years? Can we prove that we are still doing these things and more to maintain bird-friendly city status?
Yeah, that's exciting, and I think maybe there's some more work that we can be helping you with as well. And Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if you'll need a mover for this, but I would be happy to move it.
Okay, I will make sure I come back to you for that.
Thank you.
Next question, Councillor Stretch.
Councillor Johnson actually asked one of my questions, but the other question I had was about the community vote. So I didn't totally understand on how the community will pick its bird representation.
Sure. So Jen and I are members of Waterloo Region Nature, who are a community eco group that we leaned on heavily for their knowledge and members to help support our application building and things like that. We started early polling in the members meeting of Waterloo Region Nature to get an idea of the birds that people cared about the most. I am currently learning how to build a website. Our poll will be available on there, but we have 2 social media accounts that are doing quite well, one on Facebook and one on Instagram, and people are finding the poll through there, through our posts. We're providing knowledge about the birds so folks get to know them a little bit better, and a link directly to where they can vote.
We've also been working with the city, so we tag them in all of our social media about the poll. So it is a Google survey. So people click on the link, and then you can scroll down, see a little bit of information about each bird, and then make your vote. And so that's kind of how it's working.
Great. I will definitely share on my social media channels. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stretch. Councillor Deneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and this is great. Over the last couple of years, I've met with a local resident who is they call them birders or bird watcher out at Homer Watson Park, and so I now know of a few spots where avid bird watchers go and look for different species of bird. Species? Oh, species, yeah. Okay. So as Councillor Stretch had mentioned, I will reach out to them and let them know this process is ongoing, and I will also share it on my social media. But I think this is something that's very valuable, and I think there's a population that we don't really know about bird watchers who will definitely take this up in flight.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Deneau. Councillor Schneider.
Thank you. And Mayor, I didn't want you to be out there all alone with the bad jokes. So is it okay if we chirp Cambridge about beating them to being a bird-friendly city?
In the spirit of being a collaborative region, maybe we won't chirp them tonight, but thank you to both of you for coming in and partaking in our jokes. But something we are all very excited about, and thank you for all of your work around it. And Meredith, I had the opportunity to meet you and see some of your amazing artwork earlier this summer during Bestival. So great to have you here as well. We do have one other delegation after you want to take your seats, and we have one other delegation on this item, and that's Lanny Noble. Welcome, Lanny.
Thank you. I'm a little nervous, I apologize.
Don't be nervous. This is the most relaxing thing well, almost the most relaxing thing you could do.
The bowl of chili was a bad idea, that's all I'm saying. Okay.
Well, after this, maybe you can go back and have a beer to go with it if that's your beverage of choice. Go ahead.
Okay, so obviously I'm here to talk about the city becoming bird friendly. And I'm just here to ask you to put a pause on this discussion. I know you might be shocked for me to say that. And like, what's this guy's problem with the birds? I love birds. I think they're great. But Canadians are hurting right now. We need your help. We need to focus all of our energy on making Canada better. We need to stop pretending that there isn't a problem, because there's a big problem and we need to fix it. So please, if you're even taking me seriously, adjourn this meeting now and start focusing your attention on us. We need your help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming in, Mr. Noble. And you know, I'll just say, as a city council, certainly appreciate you coming in and sharing your concerns and perspectives. And it'll be up to council to determine how they deal with this. I do also want to say that as a council, we take the challenges that many people in the community are facing very seriously. And but as we look after a community, it's also trying to balance all the various things we need to do, particularly some that also bring some happiness and joy to the community, hopefully, as well. But thank you for coming in this evening. I don't see any questions.
No questions. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Johnson, you indicated you wanted to move this? Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to move this. Thank you. Do I need to read it? Do you want to?
Or, sure, staff
Can I
can
just-
put, you don't have to read it unless you want to.
I will move it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And as staff posted on the screen earlier, the revised, slightly revised wording. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Deneau, any discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, we'll move on then to item 6.3, which is the zoning bylaw amendment for 60 Trustler Road. And I have Mr. Scott Patterson here as a delegation. Welcome, Mr. Patterson.
There to the October 7th public meeting. I did make a written submission to council last week. It was part of your agenda package that spoke to the sustainability items that were requested of council. Here tonight again to ask for your support of the staff report and recommendation. And if there are any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, are there any questions of Mr. Patterson? Councillor Schneider.
Yes, at the first meeting, we requested that the developer come to the meeting and answer some questions, because we did have some questions. Is the developer here tonight?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the developer is not. With all due respect, I found that request a little out of the ordinary. That's the first time in 25 years that I've been asked that by a council for a developer to attend. I did discuss that item with the developer, and they chose not to. And I did discuss it with staff as well, but no, the developer is not here this evening.
See, I don't find that it's out of the ordinary, because there's one who just left the chamber. He's been here for every single one of his projects. And we did ask that he come and answer some questions. So I'm very disappointed in that. Just want to let you know.
Thank you, Councillor Schneider. Councillor Ioannidis.
Thanks, Mr. Patterson, for coming in. I'm just looking at all the responses that you sent in your written submitted on, I think, on the 14th. And really no movement on any item on behalf of your client. Is that correct, basically?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Okay.
Discussions did occur with staff, and it was decided upon to leave the project as is.
Okay. So for the visual barrier, really, you didn't really give an example why you wanted not do it for the northern part of the property limit. Do you have an explanation, better explanation than just because staff didn't recommend it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it was a discussion with staff. It is not a requirement of the zoning bylaw. It was a question of cost and necessity. Any of these items that we do add to the project naturally increase the cost. There's the balancing factor of trying to keep the cost as low as possible on this project to increase the affordability aspect.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, what was the last project that your proponent built in the city?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this particular developer, I have not been involved in an actual development project for him. He is financially involved in several projects. So it's through other parties that I seek and obtain the approvals, but he is financially involved as a partner in those projects.
Okay. All right. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, those are all the questions that we appear to have. Thank you very much. Councillor Chapman, I guess you'll be bringing this forward in Councillor Singh's absence. Sorry? Oh, questions of staff? Okay. Councillor Ioannidis, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for, I guess my question is with the visual barrier, there's nothing stopping me from asking staff to put this in the part of this approval, correct?
Go ahead, Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. A visual barrier is required by the zoning bylaw only to buffer between surface parking and adjacent residential properties that are zoned residential. So there would have to be direction within the bylaw to require the visual barrier all the way around. I would say that staff can certainly receive that direction and negotiate for a visual barrier at site plan, but there wouldn't be an ability for council to require a visual barrier where it is otherwise not required by the bylaw unless it's included in the site-specific zoning bylaw.
Okay. When this originally came and it was 72 units, why was it reduced from 72 to 62?
Through Mr. Mayor, so there was negotiations done to ensure that there was on-site amenity, that the buildings were rotated and addressed the street on the very western portion of the site so that there would be a built form, and just through negotiations on the actual site design. So this site, as it's presented now, meets all requirements under the Res 5 zoning, except for some very specific requirements, including a reduction of the rear interior side yard to 2.4 meters. And then we've already included and recommended that council support a requirement to increase the visual barrier where it is required from 1.8 meters to 2.4 meters. So it largely complies to the Res 5 zoning regulations.
Okay. As far as the negotiations between yourself and the proponent, was the owner involved in any of these discussions with you, or was it just with their staff? Paid consultant.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't recall if the owner did attend a meeting. It's typical that we work through an applicant, so someone who's been retained to provide professional advice to owners.
Okay. So has this individual have had any other projects within the city of Kitchener?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are some projects, I can't think of other ones off the top of my head. I think, what we have to look at from a land use planning perspective is what are the planning merits of the application, not necessarily who owns it or what other projects they have completed.
Okay. Have any of those been built?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that information offhand.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ioannidis. Councillor Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. In the letter we received from Mr. Patterson, it says, at this time, full design details of the buildings have not been completed, nor has the project been presented to mechanical, electrical, or structural designers for input. Additional details regarding sustainability will be determined through the formal design process. Through discussions with the project architect and owner, though the following items have been noted with regard to sustainability. It's difficult for me to make a decision without some sort of idea of what the building is going to look like and what it's going to be comprised of. Is this something that is going to be done through the site plan process, or how do we, we're just blindly being asked to approve this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there's two parts to that, two parts to my response to your question. One, building elevations are reviewed through the site plan approval process for compliance with the zoning bylaw. Now that there has been changes from the provincial government on what we can review through the site plan approval process. So matters around elevations and building design have been removed from site plan control under the Planning Act across the province. We have been working with developers within our region who have been continuing to provide building elevations, but it would be outside of our legal authority to regulate that any longer through site plan. Staff will always review building elevations to ensure compliance with the zoning bylaw, and that is done at the site plan process. The provincial government, although already delegated to staff in the city of Kitchener, the provincial government also made changes to ensure that, or to regulate that council would not have any involvement in site plan. It would have to be delegated to staff. So unfortunately, that is a matter that is outside of your control and outside of our ability to regulate largely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schneider. Councillor Deneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Stevenson, I just have a quick question. Is it out of the ordinary or unusual for council to ask that developers or owners of proposed developments attend meetings? Because I've been here for 2 years, and we've done that more than a handful of times, and so I'm just curious if it's unusual for councils to do it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't really know. I don't have a response to that. I think sometimes owners will attend. I will note that in my experience, owners are usually almost always represented by planning consultants that usually present on their behalf. But whether it's an unusual question, I don't really have an opinion on that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Michaud.
Thank you. This question's for staff. With regards to the 3-bedroom units that were requested at the last meeting, and now I'm reading that they're not proposed. The city has a surplus of units containing 3 or more bedrooms, 60% of all dwelling units. How many units out in that area, in Trustler Road area, are there that would have 3 bedrooms, like units like this one that's being developed? Or how far are they away from the units that you're referring to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't have demographic data to that level that's done by neighborhood in terms of number of bedrooms. We get community profiles through Stats Canada, which give us a citywide snapshot. We wouldn't really know exactly how many units would have how many bedrooms for many of the housing stock if their building permits were, before we collected that information. I think when I spoke to this item last a couple of weeks ago, I suggested that ground-oriented single-detached and semi-detached homes typically do have more than one bedroom, and that is largely what is comprised in that community. And this would be a different housing form. Our official plan, the low-rise residential land use district, supports all housing types in all neighborhoods. So although these are not multiple bedroom units, this would make up a combination of different housing types within the community.
Thank you. I have concerns with the term reasonably sized 1 and 2 bedroom units. I don't know what exactly that means. And I am disappointed that 3 bedroom units are not even being considered here. I'm familiar with that area. I know there's semis and houses and single detached out there that wouldn't be affordable as these types of units would be for a family of, let's say, 2 kids. So when we talk about affordable housing for everyone, or it just seems that this is just another, group of townhomes that's going up that really isn't taking families into consideration.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Michaud. Councillor Hernandez, you have more questions? Okay, Councillor Chapman, you can go into. You can bring forward the recommendation, please.
Yeah, I'll need a seconder, or just bring the recommendation
We'll bring
first?
it and then I'll ask for a seconder.
Okay, so where am I? I'd like to move that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 24-019-T-ES at 60 Tressler Road be approved.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Davey, thank you. Okay, speaking to the motion, Councillor Hernandez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Urbanovic. This one is a challenging one for me because one of the reasons why I have a little bit of an issue with this property is the expectation that was set by the current owner from five single-family lots with a economized, really set the neighborhood up for expectation of a lower type of development. I'm actually very disappointed to see that not even a visual barrier, a fence of all things, shows to me the lack of respect that us as members of council are receiving with this, in the spec that future residents that are going to live there will have to look at a factory. The fact that I probably would have been happy if it was even 1 unit reduced, and I probably would have went, okay, but the fact that nothing, big flat 0 in everything, tells me where I feel this is going. But anyways, I will not be supporting this, and I really hope my fellow colleagues would not support this. I feel like this is a message that needs to be sent, that we do need housing. No doubt we need housing, but sometimes the littlest things need to be looked at in the neighborhood. Just the littlest things. And I feel like we got nothing out of this. So, and I can't even legislate a fence in there, or I can't even put a fence in there. To me, that I get why. I'm the first to be the most critical with legislation, but this time around, I feel like nothing was budged, and we weren't listened to as a community. But anyways, I encourage everyone not to support this, to send the right message that sometimes we have to turn down developments to send a clear message that we need to be taken seriously as members of council.
Councillor Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to express my disappointment that the developer did not come tonight to answer questions. Sitting in the gallery, you have another developer with his planner, and Mr. Litt has come to every single meeting. He's listened to the community, listened to council, and worked together with council and staff. We need the housing. There is no doubt about it. And if we turn this down, it's going to end up at the OLT. I'm reluctantly supporting this, and just want to express my disappointment in the developer for not coming to speak to council and fill that request that we had of them.
Councillor Davey.
Yes, thank you. I want to start by saying Councillor Ioannidis isn't wrong in that, well, I agree with him in that we don't have enough authority to be able to affect decisions at this stage. Having said that, I will be supporting it, and it's simply because at the end of the day, what happens is the same result or worse. What will happen is the developer will appeal this, it goes above our heads and goes to an unelected board. That in 97% of cases, according to our own staff, go with on the side of the developer. And I guarantee you those 3% of cases had a much stronger standing than this one is here. At the end of the day, we have to be pragmatic, and if we're going to turn this down, it does have to be based on the planning principles that are before us. And I'm not seeing any sort of a case against the planning principles as put forward by our staff. And my understanding as well is that the developer could even go before the ULT and try to get back closer to the 72 units from the 62. So again, I think at the end of the day, all we're really hurting here is the people that need homes to be constructed. We can push that down the road, but I don't think that's really going to achieve what we want to achieve. So I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Councillor Janot.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm along the lines of Councillor Ioannidis. I won't support this, and there's a few reasons why, but I think we need to show, as Councillor Ioannidis remarked, that developers that need to work with councils and need to work with the community that's looking to build it. We live here. These developers don't live here. The owners don't live here. They live out of town. And so we are the ones to be left with the aftermath after some of these developments that are not great. And so, you know, I'm also disappointed that that the developer is not here, because I think for the most part, any developments that we've had questions or concerns or comments on, you know, to have any adjustments, it's come back to us and there's been some movement. You know, not even considering heat pumps, like for heaven's sake. But I think, you know, we do have developers in this area who are willing to work with Kitchener City Council on bringing forward the best developments that has the community in mind and not just for to get in, build, and get out. And so I will not support this development proposal.
Okay, there aren't any other people in the queue, so I'll just make my comments. I too want to begin by acknowledging Councillor Ioannidis' frustrations with the process and the responsiveness of the applicant via their representative. And also want to add my disappointment that if the presence of the applicant was requested here, that they didn't make that effort. Yes, they are entitled to choose to be represented by a professional such as yourself, Mr. Patterson. But at the same time, we have a long history in this community of working collaboratively with developers, and while we can't always give everyone, whether it's a developer or the community, what they're looking for, we try to find a solution that meets the needs of all parties and allows for a healthy community to go forward. And so it is disappointing, and you know, I guess my comment to you would be that regardless of what happens this evening, I would hope that your client would avail themselves of that opportunity yet, and to engage with the ward councillor, with the city, and to still consider some of the things that have been brought forward this evening. Having said all that, you know, when I look at the information that's before me, when I consider everything, when I consider the strength of the planning application, the reality is that, as has been pointed out, on planning merits, this project has the rationale to proceed as has been outlined. And as several of my colleagues have already stated. I do that somewhat reluctantly, to be quite frank, and, you know, expect better from the development partners that we have in this community. So please pass that on to your client, and maybe that'll give them some sober second thought. Anyway, we'll see where the vote goes this evening, and we'll go from there. I don't see any other speakers in the queue. All those in favor? A recorded vote has been requested. So a plus is a yes, a minus is a no, and a 0 is a conflict. So we should have 9 votes. Oh, do we vote again? Something weird happened? Okay, so please vote again. Okay, and the motion carries. Okay, we'll now move on to item 6.4, zoning bylaw amendment application, King Pine at 864, 876 King West. And we have 2 delegations here, Mr. Litt and Mr. Chauvin. Mr. Litt, I have you first. Did you want to speak first, or did you want Mr. Chauvin to go first? Okay, sounds good. Welcome to both of you. Mr. Chauvin, you have 5 minutes to make your presentation. Yep. I can't turn it on for some reason. Hold on. There you go. Go ahead.
Is this working? Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Pierre Chauvin with MHBC Planning. With me this evening is Mr. Litt with Vive Development. We're here in relation to item 6.4 on your agenda, King and Pine. Here a bit with tail between our legs, sort of cap in hand a little bit. When we were asked to come before the last committee meeting, there were a lot of changes made within the last week to make adjustments to the plan to address some of the staff comments and bring it forward with a positive recommendation. That was all great. However, as you can appreciate, a building of this size and scale, there's a lot of moving parts that go into it. And unfortunately, there was an error made. And in terms of, I won't get into all the technical details, but architecturally and structurally, bearing walls have to be on top of each other. We can't really have things not really supported. So as a result, we had to shift the building closer to the high school playground or sports field, which is, if you recall in the staff report, that was the least concern, or they understood the reason, or they're supportive of reducing some of those physical tower separations because of the sort of sports field as opposed to other future development on the other frontages. So As a result, we had to increase the building footprint and adjust the building, I'll call it northward, towards that park space by 1 meter. And so some of the provisions we're asking that council look at to adjust in the bylaw. There are 2 bylaws, you'll recall. One relates to the current in effect bylaw 85-1, and one relates to the new bylaw 2019-51. And under the current bylaw 85-1, we're asking that the floor space ratio be adjusted from 7.3 to 7.9. And that's really the only change there. And in terms of the newer bylaw, some of the changes is a little more there's probably 4 changes in total. One relates to the floor plate area, which was originally 2,080 square meters. Oh, thank you. We're requesting that floor plate be increased to 2,146.1 square meters. And then there were 3 areas where the physical separation from stories 13 to 18, 19 to 36, and 37 above, is effectively 13 all the way to 37 and above, be changed from 4.7 meters to 3.7 meters. So if you look at all the numbers, they're relatively minor, but it makes a huge difference in obviously the constructability of this building. All the other requests or provisions that we're contemplating in terms of 3-story bedrooms, affordability, energy savings, all that remains the same. It's really some minor changes, and rather than coming back again before Committee of Adjustment or something like that, we thought we'd take this opportunity this evening and make these changes once and for all. We do appreciate your consideration for this and apologize for this oversight, and happy to answer any questions, and maybe you can hold on to your questions until Mr. Litt speaks as well.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to suggest, so thank you. And Mr. Litt, if you want to come forward to the podium. Welcome.
Good evening. Hope everyone... I just wanted to draw your attention to slide number 5. You guys have seen sort of our important community discussions and such and what we do. So slide number 5, community feedback and our response. So to address Councillor Stretch's comments at committee, the art hoarding, we're totally cool doing that. We think it's a minor investment in sort of improving the streetscape over what is, generally a painful construction mess. So happy to do that. Dog amenities, so open to suggestions when we get in detailed site plan with staff, what is appropriate on a 6-story podium. So we'll kick that ball down the road once we get into detailed design. Happy to commit to a construction management plan with various agencies, so we totally respect. I know even going to visit the site now to check out the demo, it's quite difficult. You have to drive around the neighborhood, so totally get that. We're happy to also set up sort of an email blast to any concerned neighbors with our site super once we get there. So these are small things, but I get they add up to sort of making construction tolerable. So the biggest thing on the slide I wanted to bring up, so I've heard around this horseshoe many times, sort of the community's interest in 3-bedroom layouts, and as I brought up time and time again how they're difficult to put in a high-rise. This is a point tower, not a slab, so more of a square versus a rectangle. We looked at a few different layouts, and we've been studying this for a number of months. We've come up with a solution to incorporate 3-bedroom layouts in the corners of this tower. Again, we think that they work really well for families raising young kids who want that child to have pseudo-independence, have that door, that community space. And again, the flip side, an aging parent, right? When you have, how aging kids growing up and old people getting older is expensive, right? So if people can remain under one roof, makes a lot of sense. And the flip side, a 3-bedroom layout also allows for what's referred to as young professionals. It's sort of a cliche overused term, but for people to bunk up and share that cost. So it's sort of a triple win. Is there a market for it? We're not sure, but we'd like to give it a shot on this one. So not related to the zoning, just something to mention that we're going to put forward. So That's all I really have. Look forward to the next phase coming to council probably in the spring. I would say the one thing to know, it'd be nice to go back to the school board. They've got 4 acres of land there. It's owned by a school board, which is community space. In my opinion, like, it shouldn't be fenced off. They sort of provided the comment that it should be just for their use. I think personally there should be a gate for our residents to use that to kick a sports ball around, right? We all have to, you know, contribute to make urban living and high density more tolerable. So that's what I've got. Here for questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So if both of you want to come to the podium, and we have several questions for you.
Cool.
Councillor Johnson, you're first up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much for coming in tonight. It's very refreshing to have you both here, so thank you. I appreciate your approach, and Mr. Chauvin, I appreciate your approach in terms of how you talked about the changes that you needed to make, and it absolutely makes sense. I'm a visual person, so putting numbers in to say, you know, we've changed it from this many meters to this many, do you have anything that shows like what it was and what it will be? That makes it easier for people to be able to picture what the changes are.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm used to the old days when you had a projector screen. I have something drawn up that I could provide on the old projector if that was still available. But I understand that isn't, well, unless that is available, I guess not. So really it's all, if I know it's hard to visualize, but it is just that one wall getting closer by a meter towards the park. The podium is not moving. It's the tower portion that is. And so that portion was 4.6, the tower, so anything over 7 stories was 4.7, now it's going to 3.7, so a meter difference, 3 feet.
You had a number of different numbers there, though, so is it really only the one that it's moving a meter closer to the playing field?
Just bear with me, I might have it here, did I just move it? Just a second. This is planning on the fly. What I don't like to do.
I love it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I can key in later for other questions. Thank you.
Does my drawing help?
And just some context. So after working closely with staff, it was suggested to rotate the entire building 90 degrees. So these things take, they ebb and they flow. So in order to do that, if a tower doesn't line up with the structure below, it adds all kinds of complexity and massive transfer slabs, beams, steel, expense. And so we're very, very conscious of lining up structures. So it's 0.9 meters closer to the playing field, which staff suggested was suitable on sort of our design charrette.
Okay, great. Councillor O'Dooney, you're up next.
Thank you. My question is more for staff, so should I
hold off and you can press yourself back in. Councillor Stretch.
Yes, thank you. I've been, in the area recently at the hospital and noticed watching the demolition happening. And I can't help but think that this is just a really important build within our community. It's really close to the border. A lot of the frontage is going to be seen. And so I'm just wondering if there's anything like an example that you can compare it to give us some context as to what, not exactly these small changes look like, but what overall you'll be offering the community through this.
So like if you were standing in the hospital parking lot, the changes proposed, you wouldn't notice. It's the back wall is moving a little over 3 feet closer to the property line, which, I mean, you wouldn't notice on a 44-story tower, so somewhat minor, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand these pieces are minor, but I feel like the overall development is actually quite important. It's,
Sure.
quite central to the border. So, I initially had seen this part of the development, but the overall big picture of it do you have anything like that you can share, or even, paint us a visual picture?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. We did have if you recall back in my presentation, I did have some renderings of the overall picture. So unfortunately, I didn't bring those this evening, but those were provided just to give you context of how it would look. Again, still very preliminary. We're not there yet. Then that's going to be subject to another application, but that kind of gave you an idea of what that corner will look like in the fullness of time.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to recall, but I think most of the images was just around the current application. I understand that there's like a front piece like to come later on, and how when the vision is complete. I guess I am looking for an example or something to compare.
Right. I think if I can offer, or I can only offer that perhaps after this meeting, I don't have it this evening, we can provide you some of those visuals. But we do have those, so you have an idea what it looks like comprehensively.
Yeah, staff have seen what we're proposing, right? There was just so many changes in growing together and changes in zoning bylaws, et cetera, that we just said, you know what, this is simplify, get the first one going. So staff have that, it'll address, I suspect the concern is it's going to be right on the corner. It's going to be, we hope, taller than the first phase. It'll be the exact same sort of housing topology. So rental, energy efficient, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my concern really, with the overall big picture, these small movements are very, very minor compared to the overall vision of what you would like to see that be. And so I guess that's what I was getting at. No, I think that's all my questions for now.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stretch. Councillor Michaud.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson kind of touched on the first question that I was going to ask, but I do want to ask a question. First of all, I'm delighted to hear that 3-bedroom units are being highly considered for this. You said in the corner of the building. So is that on every floor, or how many are we?
Yeah, it's the same floor plate from floors 8 to 44. And obviously, with balconies and to fenestrate and make it beautiful and all that. But yeah, the whole way up.
That's awesome. That's all I have. Just wonderful to hear.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Michaud. Councillor Deneau, are you questions of staff or delegation? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Always nice to see you, Mr. Litt. You got your festive sweater on. That's really nice.
Thanks, man.
It's
Christmas now.
So, quick question. Can you remind me, and I've tried looking back, but I can't find it. Can you remind me some of the biggest concerns that were brought forward at the original meeting by the community?
Yeah, I think most of them were related to the construction chaos, which we'll do every best effort to try and minimize that. The other ones, I believe it was just the not ugly sort of plywood hoarding, dog amenity. I think that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, we took good notes from that. So.
All right. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, I think those are all the questions we have of you. Thank you to both of you for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
Councillor Owaduni, questions of staff.
Yeah, I just have one quick question. In terms of the changes that are being proposed, would love to get your thoughts. Is it something you're comfortable with, you're okay with?
Go ahead, Mr. Stevenson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we received the revised concepts late last week and staff had a chance to review them. As of this morning, we are satisfied with the changes. What is being proposed essentially is the tower is 1 meter closer to what is undevelopable open space. Our direction early on was in order to consider any deviation from growing together physical separation, that would be the yard that we would be willing to compromise. Last week we understood that it was going to be 4.7 meters and we were supportive of that. It's been revised to 3.7 meters, which is 1 meter. And we don't have any concerns with that changes. They are truly a minor change with respect to that yard. All of the other fundamental principles of growing together, will either be achieved through Phase 2, which is the active streetscape along Pine and King, and then physical tower separation will be met on site between the two towers. So we don't have a final design concept for Phase 1. We saw something very preliminary. If a zoning bylaw amendment is required for Phase 2, which is going to be the second tower, then we'll ensure that council has the visuals for that as part of the package. But all that is to say we don't have any concerns.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor O'Doone. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Stevenson, I had a question with regards to Mr. Litt's comments around the playing field. Actually, both my kids played field hockey, rugby, and soccer on that field, so it's a very well-used field for KCI. And certainly I know from having been a school board trustee that the fields are the property of the school during school hours. Is there conversations that can be had about the ability to be able to use those fields after hours, weekends, summers, etc.?
Through Mr. Mayor, it's certainly something I can raise with our park staff and with the school board and see if there is that opportunity. I know that we did have those high-level conversations when we were doing Growing Together, and the school board was involved in that. The school board does program that space and maintain it, so I think that they want to ensure that their programming is first priority, but certainly I can bring that back to the school board in the next conversations.
Yeah, I think it's an important conversation to have because it is one of the few large green spaces that are in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Davey.
Yes, thank you. Just one question. Apologies if I missed it earlier, but with the changes, and maybe I should have asked the delegate, but is there an expected change in the number of units? Because I believe it was 456, if I'm remembering correctly. I see Mr. Litt coming down to clarify.
Mr. Litt? No, hold on, staff. There we go.
304.
304, okay. Did that change from?
Yeah, the units are much larger now with the 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Worries.
Okay, those appear to be all the questions. So we'll turn it over to you.
So through the chair.
Yes.
Should council wish to approve the revised application as noted tonight, we do require an additional clause, which will be on the screen.
I can't read it because it's too small. Can you?
So through the chair, it just notes to waive the provision within the Planning Act with respect to notice.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chapman, if you want to clue in or press in, go ahead.
So moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Johnston that council approve the amended item 6.4 or 7.3.b?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 6.5, Heritage Permit Application for 115 Lancaster Street East and 58 to 60 Ellen Street East. We have 2 delegations. The first one is Mr. Mark Benjamins. Welcome, Mr. Benjamins.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for your time this evening in reviewing our application. I won't take up too much of our time this evening, but the property, we purchased it in 2017, and it's always been our vision to revitalize it and bring it back to be a valuable property in the community. It's had a lot of deferred maintenance over the years. Many of the fixtures in the building are 75 years old, roughly. That's the mechanical and heating and electrical. There's no insulation. So part of this application, we would like to build a 3-story addition onto the back and add 5 units to the existing 6. And adding that density would give us the opportunity to finance the repairs needed to the existing building, which are pretty extensive. And I myself live 5 doors down from it, so it's something that I personally am very excited to see. And some of the interesting parts about the property is the parking. There will be no parking, and there will be 2 visitor parking spots, but no designated parking for the tenants. And it is within walking distance to the LRT, and we have come up with a comprehensive parking plan to address that. And in terms of the heritage, we have worked with planners and been receptive to their feedback and done our best to make this a property that will be exciting and renovated and be brought back to the present day. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Benjamins. We do have a couple for you. Councillor Ioannidis.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin, for coming in. So just to get a bit of a clarification, so you are in support of the recommendation by staff?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you. So at the Heritage Committee meeting, there were questions about what's the front, the side, the back, the whatever. Could you just maybe clarify that a bit for us and in that context, explain the justification for what you're proposing?
Yeah, so it's an interesting property because it has exposure on Lancaster Street, Allen Street, and Frederick Street at the 5 Points intersection, as it's commonly been called. So I guess it's unique in the way that the rear of the property is visible, and heritage staff and the way that heritage planning is set up is that they encourage additions to be built at the rear of the building because the rear of this building has quite a bit of exposure. We've done our best to be sympathetic to the existing building. You will have a little bit of exposure to that addition on Lancaster Street and Allen Street. And the neighbor to 54 Allen Street is supportive of what we're trying to do. We've been doing our best to keep neighbors and people local to the Civic Center happy. But I know one neighbor is not too excited, and I think she will be a delegate next.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for coming in, Mr. Benjamins. Do you have renderings of this that you can show?
I don't have renderings here tonight. I'd be happy to share those with you later on.
Yeah, it would be great to see. It's a beautiful, or would have been a stately Italianesque style home. So it'd be really great to see what you've done. So
for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Schneider.
There you go. Thank you, Mayor. No questions. Just want to say thank you for wanting to restore a building like this to its glory. It's really great to see these properties come back to life and lovingly restored. So I just really want to thank you and commend you for taking this project on and adding some additional units to a great location. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Schneider, and Mr. Benjamins, thank you very much. Those are all the questions we have.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Okay, our next delegation is Nancy Ashley. Welcome, Ms. Ashley.
Thank you. The applicant The applicant is requesting permission to add a 3-story addition to the existing sixplex, thereby doubling its size to 11 units. This property is of special interest to the city and is defined by the city as a gateway property to the Civic Center Heritage District. Because properties in the CCHD are governed by the Heritage Act, changes to the exterior must comply with the Civic Center Heritage District Conservation Plan. This plan was drafted by the Heritage Committee, registered with the province, and submitted into bylaw. It reads in part as follows. Minor exterior alterations and additions shall be permitted, provided such alterations are not within any front or side yard. Additions shall be subordinate. The contribution of each individual property to the overall character is the front facade. Additions should be located away from the principal facade of heritage properties, preferably at the rear of the building. When asked whether he would be doubling the size of the existing building, the applicant's architect stated that the addition would be only 1/3 of the original building. I believe that statement is inaccurate. I believe the original structure and addition are closer to 2,500 square feet each. In the architect's own heritage impact assessment, heritage properties are identified as either A or B, very fine or fine. The city, in its own HIA, claims that this entire property is designated A. However, that is incorrect. It is only 115 Lancaster, the front facade, which is designated A or very fine. On several occasions over the past years, I have expressed my concerns through email and again at the Committee of Adjustments meeting, where several minor variances were requested as follows: a front yard setback, easterly side yard setback, a rear yard setback. These variances were obtained with the understanding that the southerly facade was in fact the front facade. This would then default the northerly side to be a rear yard. Despite all these inconsistencies, as well as a petition from immediate neighbors, the variances were approved. While the site plan approval is a process to ensure the development projects comply with municipal bylaws, the policies, it seems as though the city's site plan, in this case, has been designed to circumvent its own rules. At the meeting for heritage application, the architect himself has stated, there is no rear yard. I don't know why this keeps getting repeated again and again. There is only 2 side yards. This is a through lot. It has 2 fronts, 2 sides, no rear. At the meeting for heritage application, the architect has himself stated there is no rear yard. And yet, with no rear yard and without knowing the actual square footage, approval was given for a 2,500 square foot hardy board addition with vinyl windows, which comes 15 feet into the front yard of 115 Lancaster, or the most desirable side of the building. Basically, this building has been butchered on each side. The only side that's been left original is 115 Lancaster, and that is where the addition will be coming out onto. It is at this point that I am left to ask you, why is it that I am up here defending a heritage building instead of our Heritage Committee? As well, how is it possible to approve a building permit on a proposal which is based on incorrect information? Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions of the delegate? Councillor Chapman. Oh, questions for staff. There are no questions for you, Ms. Ashley. Thank you. Questions of staff. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll ask the same question I asked the developer about the fronts, the sides, and the backs of the building that's on the property. Can you just give me your understanding of it?
Mr. Stevenson?
Thank you, Councillor Davey. In response to the question, when we look to which is the front, side, or rear yard, we look to definitions within the zoning bylaw. In the case of a corner lot, a through lot, it's the shortest lot line abutting a street. In this case, the shortest lot line abutting a street is along Lancaster Street East. We then rely on the definition of rear yard, which says it's opposite the front. So I will confirm that this, we did have this discussion. There was a drawing within the Committee of Adjustment report, and there was information provided to the applicant as well as the delegate this evening, indicating graphically and describing exactly how we interpret which yard is the front and the rear. The reason that it's significant is because the Civic Center Heritage Conservation District does talk about additions being in the rear yard. It doesn't totally preclude side yard additions, but they are not favored. It is in the rear yard. Our heritage staff, as well as the Heritage Committee, have reviewed a heritage permit application. That's why it's on the agenda this evening. We are supportive, and Heritage Kitchener was supportive of the addition. I think it's important to know that in our heritage conservation districts, especially within our protected major transit station areas, these are opportunities for growth that is in conformance with the guidelines within the Heritage Conservation District. It does not mean that every building is preserved exactly in the way that it exists now, but that modest additions or slight changes to increase housing stock within areas close to transit are reviewed through a significant review process under the Heritage Act, and staff make recommendations ultimately to council for decisions.
Okay, thank you. Just one further question. So when Growing Together was being discussed and worked on, and the question of heritage came into the discussion, and I believe it was you who said that, you know, heritage district guidelines would trump, I'm not sure if trump is the right word to say it, to use here, but would be given greater importance than the Growing Together zoning changes in any particular case. So I just wondered, do you feel that in this case, heritage is given the respect that it needs to have?
Through you, Councillor Davey. So the official plan policy that's included within the Growing Together framework is that where there's a conflict, the Heritage Conservation District shall prevail. And in this case, and that's why the delegate has raised the issue of the rear yard, and why that matters and why it's important to understand exactly how we determine front and rear yard. It is our opinion that the addition is within the rear yard. Is it visible from the street? Yes. But is it subordinate? Is it of a similar material? Is it appropriate? Our professional heritage planning staff certainly feel that this is appropriate. The applicant has responded with changes, and staff are supportive of the addition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There is no one else left in the queue. Who's bringing this forward? Councillor Chapman?
By Councillor Michaud, that item number, sorry. I apologize. 7.1.A be approved.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much for coming in to both delegations. We'll now move on to the reports of the committees, and we'll start with Heritage Kitchener. And Councillor Chapman, I'll turn it over to you if you can bring in the balance of the report.
Yes, so it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Michaud that items 7.1.B to 7.1.F under Heritage Kitchener be approved.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We'll now move on to Finance and Corporate Services Committee. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. It's been moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Ioannidis that the 4 items from Finance and Corporate Services Committee be adopted.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And back over to you, Councillor Chapman, for the balance, or have we dealt with both of them? No, with the balance of planning and strategic initiatives? If you can, yep, thank you.
So I think we still have to look at 7.3.8.
Yes, correct.
I wanted to speak to that if I could, or do I
So I need a
first move it?
seconder
or-
first?
Okay.
You're moving it?
Yeah, well, yeah. Can I move it
okay.
and still talk?
Yeah,
to you?
absolutely.
Okay.
Councillor Davey, seconder. Go ahead, Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, so I have some concerns with what's being proposed here, and I don't think we have anybody from the planning, the developers team to respond to these, but my questions have to do with, or my concerns have to do with the, first of all, this is in an MTSA area, and which is, as we all know, a hot off the press, growing together, zoning bylaw adjustment, and here we are before it's even completely gone through the appeal process at the OLT, and we're proposing to accept this. So that's one of my biggest concerns. I also have grave concerns about the fact that 5 houses, which currently provide affordable units, will be demolished and people will be displaced. I have concerns with the fact that there are approximately 2,600 new units being built in the Victoria Street, Park Street area, and that doesn't include what might be built in the Bram Yards. And already, some would describe it as an already congested area when it comes to traffic. I think there needs to be a more comprehensive plan for this intersection and this area rather than a piecemeal approach, which is basically what we've been doing. We get an application, we pass it. We get another application and we pass it. And although we're often told that traffic studies don't highlight or trigger any concerns, I really wonder, if more attention needs to be put to this. The developer says that they're seeking CMHC funding. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen. If it does, yes, it would be 24 units, but until that gets approved, we don't know what is actually going to happen. So I guess my message is we need to stick to the plan, and in this case, we're not doing that. The other concern that in most of the heritage districts, there's a road or a laneway that separates the heritage district from a new development. In this case, there's no break. So the heritage homes are right up against the side property of this proposal. So I won't be voting in favor of it. I'll leave it to the discretion of others to do as you see appropriate, but it's unfortunate that we don't have the developer here tonight to respond to some of these concerns. And I don't know, staff, I don't know if you want to address any of them. I'm happy to hear your thoughts.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Staff are supportive of this proposed development. This is a consolidation of properties along Victoria Street. Yes, there are some existing residential rental units that would be demolished. However, our rental replacement bylaw would apply. The applicant is aware of that and is aware of their obligations under the rental replacement bylaw to replace and compensate each of the tenants that are existing according to the outline or the terms of our rental replacement bylaw. The property is adjacent to the Victoria Park Heritage Conservation District and not within it. Special care was provided through the review of this application and through a heritage impact assessment to evaluate any potential impacts on the Heritage Conservation District. Staff are supportive of this. We see this as an opportunity to have to start to implement our priority streets as part of growing together. So these units all would face onto the street, and there wouldn't be a bunch of driveways out onto Victoria Street that exist now. All vehicle movements are consolidated at the rear, and that is and the building is buffered from the adjacent low-rise residential land use district, Heritage Conservation District. I will say that we have this balance of having to intensify within our core, especially our protected major transit station areas, and we also have 2 heritage conservation districts within those geographies. This, to me, represents an acceptable balance of a transition from higher residential development that's been approved and is planned on the other side of Victoria Street and the adjacent Heritage Conservation District, which is low-rise. Staff are supportive of the application, and we have worked through any technical concerns that we did have with the applicant prior to the Planning and Strategic Initiative meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Davey.
Yes, thank you. Can you remind us how many units will be subject to the rental replacement bylaw?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, there are 4 single detached dwellings plus 1 existing fourplex, so all 8 units would be subject to the rental replacement bylaw.
Thank you. And the 24, sorry, is it 24 affordable housing if they're approved for CMHC?
That is my understanding, that they've made submissions and that they are close to securing that final agreement with CMHC. They do need zoning approval in order for CMHC to finalize any proposals.
Okay, thank you. So you sort of prefaced my question there. So there's no, it's a chicken and egg thing. There's no way for us to establish CMHC approval until they get the zoning for it in the first place, correct?
That is correct. CMHC, so on eligible projects, usually following this meeting, I provide an email update to our contact at CMHC to make them aware of which projects are approved and ready for final issuance of any agreements that CMHC might have for affordable housing.
Thank you. And sorry, final clarification. So it's 24 units in addition to the 8 rental replacement bylaw units, correct? Or can they double dip?
There is the opportunity that they could double dip.
Okay, so it's a minimum of 24. Okay, thank you. I'll have comment as well, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would agree with Councillor Chapman that the traffic that will be going through Victoria Park and going through that neighborhood is going to be a lot with all of the different proposals that we have going in there, with the traffic coming off of Henry Street, I think is the laneway that's going off, and we'll be turning onto Park Street right at basically the parking lot for Victoria Park. It's going to be a lot. That being said, I'm wondering, Mr. Stevenson, can you kind of reiterate how planners have to approach each application that comes to you?
Go ahead, Mr. Stevenson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not a transportation expert, but you know, in our review, we do rely on our colleagues in transportation to review changes to land use that would enable additional density. That's often supported by a transportation impact study. So that impact study looks at the current conditions and then the projected conditions based on changes as a result of a development application. Because we have, and as Councillor Chapman has correctly pointed out, we have many development applications that have been approved but are not yet built. Those are all future developments that are included within that count. So we ensure that the TIS takes into consideration not only growth forecasts, but also developments that have been approved that are not yet built to understand that. The TIS largely looks at to see what potential improvements or changes to the transportation network would be required. I think it's important to remember that within our planning, when we're doing our planning for our major transit station areas, we are looking at a modal shift of how people get around. Council's invested significantly in the downtown cycling grid. There's also been improvements to sidewalk and pedestrian connections and trail connections through the park, as well as to other areas in the city. So the proposal is for 120 units. 24 would meet the CMHC definition of affordable, and only 53 parking spaces are being proposed. So even if all 53 cars were to leave at once, which is not how it works, the impact that would have would be marginal based on what we understand from the TIS.
Thank you. I guess as well, I wanted you to comment on it, and just because I think it's always important for the public to know this, but that we have to deal with each individual application that comes to us on its own merits, correct?
That is correct.
And therefore, we make a decision building by building instead of looking at it more from the community perspective.
So part of the planning recommendation that is outlined in the staff report and what we consider is the plan function of an area as well. So staff analyzed the future through the Growing Together approvals. We know that that's the plan function for this neighborhood, and that's what we compare this proposal against. So although you would be making a decision on an individual application, the merits on that application also consider the long-term planning and change that's either predicted or planned. So individual applications, but we do take a holistic approach in reviewing changes to land use that would impact a community.
Okay, thank you. May I make a quick comment, Mr. Mayor, now? Okay, all right, thank you. I do share Councillor Chapman's concerns about the traffic going through here. It's going to be a lot of density in that particular area. I travel through there. That's a way coming from the west side of the city to get out to the 401, et cetera. So I know a lot of people in the neighborhood do. So I do share your concerns. Again, though, as Mr. Stevens had said, we do have to deal with them application by application. But I do share your concerns, Councillor Chapman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Davey.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate the impacts of the rental replacement bylaw on this. I don't. There used to be a time that we could use the loss of affordable housing as a knock against a development. We can no longer do that, provided that 6 or more units are being replaced. And I say that because, when we went through the rental replacement bylaw conditions, if a loved one, if a child or a sibling or something were in a situation where their home was being replaced in a situation like this, I would actually be happy for them because worst case scenario, they could be getting an upgrade or a brand new place, even if it might be smaller. So I no longer see that as a negative, provided there's 6 or more. And in addition, there'll be a minimum of 16 more affordable housing, not technically affordable by income, but affordable by CMHC in terms of getting a reduction in value. So while some of the other arguments, I think, do have some merit with respect to traffic, I think when it comes to the affordable housing piece, this is definitely a big win.
Thank you very much. Councillor Davey, any other comments? If not, those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, unfinished business we've dealt with. New business, there, as you know, we're in the midst of budget both here and at the region. So that continues to move forward, and there are, this week we'll be hearing from the police budget, and then next week we'll be continuing on with meetings and more public input sessions over at the region. Other than that, I think I'll leave things at that for today, and we'll move on to questions and answers. Are there any questions and answers? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor, if you could just reiterate our own public consultation for the budget for the City of Kitchener, please.
Sorry, thank you. Great suggestion. And further to what was announced earlier this morning, our public consultation will be next Monday evening at 7 p.m. And people can register via our city clerk at delegations or at Yeah, delegations@kitchener.ca. Sorry, I had to double check that. Thank you. Any other questions or answers? If not, we'll move on to bylaws. Madam Clerk, are there additional bylaws?
So through the mayor, there are a number of late starter bylaws noted on the agenda. There are 5 in total, one which has a conflict, one for 60 Trustler, 2 for the Victoria Street South, and then 2 for the King Street West properties.
Okay, so I think it's 11.2.A, that's 60 Trustler. So I'll deal with that one first with the noted conflict. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, actually I need a mover first for the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor O'Dooney. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. No, sorry. What? You're opposed to the bylaws? You're just opposed to the Trustler bylaw. Okay, thank you. And now, but it passes anyway. The rest balance of the bylaws, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Move that council resolve itself into the committee of the whole. All moved by Councillor Schneider, second by Councillor Deneau. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And Councillor Stretch, over to you.
Thank you. Is there a mover for the item 12.1A on the committee of a whole agenda? Councillor Chapman? Are there any questions or comments from members of council? I see none. I will call a vote on the administrative reports. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
Move that the committee rise and report.
All in favor?
Sorry.
Oh.
There are 3 matters arising from caucus, so if it would be
Oh,
okay.
okay, that's still okay, under committee of the whole. Sorry, back over to you, Councillor Stretch.
That's okay. So I think we're looking at items 5.1, lease agreement, city-owned lands, land disposition and solicitor client privilege selection. Is there a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Johnson? All in favor? All opposed? Motion is carried. There's 2, okay. So the next one is item 5.2, follow-up land acquisition negotiations. Is there a mover for the recommendation? Michaud? All in favor? All opposed? Motion is carried. And the last one. (5.4) Potential land acquisition and disposition. Mover. Mayor, Mayor Brvanovic. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is carried.
And now I'll move that the committee rise and report.
All in favor? Motion is carried.
Okay, Councillor Stretch, if you want to read the next part.
Is this 12.1?
No, 13. It's been moved by myself and seconded by. Is it not on your sheet?
No.
Okay, so it's been moved by Councillor Stretch and seconded by Councillor Michaud.
Oh, I see.
That the proceedings in the recorded pecuniary interests and conflicts taken in the meeting of the Committee of the Whole held this day as attached here too, and forming part of these minutes be and the same are hereby adopted and confirmed. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Third reading of the bylaws, and we have those same extra bylaws. I'll deal with 14.2.A first, due to the conflict. Moved by Councillor O'Dooney, second by Councillor Deneau. That's for all of the third reading, but we'll deal with 14.2.A first. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh,
Sorry, in favor.
yeah. No, you're not, because that was a
Because I'm in
conflict.
it? Oh, that's the,
Yes.
sorry.
So we'll do that again. All those
So
in
sorry.
favor? Opposed? That's carried. The balance of the bylaws, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor O'Dooney, seconded by Councillor Ioannidis. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening.